Last year was my first full year in business. And so this is my second year. I mean, my goal is I want to double what I made last year.
Today's guest is Justin Prasad, a dedicated junk removal business owner. In his first year, he grew his business to 6 figures, and now he's focused on doubling that success.
Over 90% of the junk operators are under the table. They don't have insurance. They don't have companies declared with the state. They don't pay taxes. They don't do any of that. And those guys will underbid you big time. For a job that you say you do for 600, they'll do it for 200.
In this episode, he shares the real steps he took, the challenges he overcame, and how you can apply these lessons to your own journey.
All right, Justin Prasad, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to tell you something, and this is a good preface for this episode. Every homeowner in California at some point need a junk removal service. So in this episode, I'm bringing you in. You are the owner of SNN Junk Removal, and I want the audience from this episode to learn 2 things: who you are and what you do, and also to learn about the nature of the business, the nature of junk removal. So we'll start first by talking about who is your customer and what you can do for them. And then the other part of that episode, we're going to talk about the business side and how to be a business owner in the junk removal industry. So how does that sound?
Sounds excellent.
All right, let me start with this. Introduce yourself to the world, man. Who you are, what you do, who you help, what business are you in?
Okay, well, my name is Justin Prasad. I'm the owner of SNN Hauling and Junk Removal. We're based here in the Inland Empire. We pretty much service the whole Inland Empire, some surrounding areas, lower mountains, outskirts of Los Angeles and Orange counties as well. This is our second year in business full time and love it. Absolutely love it. I love being an entrepreneur. I love being able to control my own financial destiny, if you want to say it in that way. I worked for others for many, many years, and I feel like being your own boss is very satisfying. I love it. There's, of course, every day can be a struggle depending on what it is, but it's what you make of it. I mean, business doesn't come to you. You have to put yourself out there. I mean, everything from networking, meeting people, however you can. I mean, it's fun.
Right.
I love it.
Okay, so let's start by the beginning. Why did you start a junk removal business and how did it happen?
So while I was at my last corporate job, a couple of friends of mine had mentioned, and this is about a year before I got out of that last company, they had mentioned they were doing junk removal. One of them was a childhood friend of mine, and another one was just a random associate of mine. They both mentioned they were doing junk removal and they loved it. One of them was doing it part-time along with his regular day job. And then the other guy was doing it full-time. I would see his posts and ads, well, not ads, but posts for sure all the time. And so it was always something I thought about. They mentioned that they enjoyed it. And so after I got out of the last company I was with, I was looking for another job or even maybe another career. I don't know. I mean, and junk removal always stood out in the back of my mind. Even for a while, it was just, why are people doing this? I mean, and I started digging into it, and I all of a sudden I see a lot of people doing junk removal.
Okay, so why? Why they're doing that, and why did you do it?
So, the old adage goes, okay, so if other people are doing it, there must be a good reason why, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, all right, well, it's worth at least delving into.
Right.
Finding out, is it worth it? Because I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket if it's not, especially if it's a saturated market that's not necessarily a bad thing if it's a saturated market. Because if there's one thing I've learned in business,
it just poses a new challenge.
Definitely a new challenge.
Yeah.
Because, in all the different ventures of work that I've been in, I've noticed that, sure, there's competitors all day, but what makes you stand out?
Yes.
And every company I was at, that was their focus. Well, no, this is how we stand out for a good reason. Mm-hmm. We're standing out because we do this. We go above and beyond. We provide extra service that's included with our services.
Right.
So, and then, of course, as your phone listens to you, all of a sudden things started popping up on my phone about, hey, we have junk universities, or junk removal schools. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And there was one that popped up and that seemed interesting. So I hit the person up, and that person had done junk removal before and created a successful business and then started this venture of having a junk school. So I decided to look into it, and it sounded legitimate. So I was like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's try it out.
Let's try it out.
And in fact, and I had told the guys, like, this sounds great, but you got to convince my wife too, because this is what, we're a joint, we're a couple. So you need to.
Communal.
We're communal. So
welcome to California.
Exactly. So I was like, you have to convince my wife too.
For sure.
If she's convinced, then okay, let's do it. So my wife came on a call a few days later. We had a Zoom call with this gentleman, and my wife was like, "This sounds very legit. Okay, if you want to try it, do it. You have nothing else to lose." So tried it out, and
was it a massive investment? Like you spent a lot of money with him?
It wasn't an overly massive. I mean, it was a decent chunk of money to put down, but it was.
Do you want to share numbers?
Okay, yeah, I can share numbers. That's fine. It was I think I spent about. It was almost 6,000 to get in this program.
Okay.
And basically, the program was to show you how to start a junk removal company legally, and like how you actually go about not just starting it, but also how do you promote it?
Right.
How do you, brand recognition, getting a name established in the community, and so forth.
Sure.
So, and it also came with the curriculum. Now, if there's one thing though, I mean, the old saying that goes, you can lead a horse to water, but can you make it drink, right? Or something like that. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. But
you are saying it correctly, yes.
So,
go ahead.
And so
he led you to the water.
Right. So
but you still have to do the work.
I still have to do the work. So I figured, all right, well, so I started taking notes on everything. I started delving into things, looking into it more like, okay, how do I start a LLC with the state of California? I got to get insurance. Like I have to get liability insurance. I have to get commercial auto insurance. How can I do that? So this course helped me at least get into the right direction. Like, okay, here's some avenues here. Look into this, look into that. So I started slowly doing that. At first I was trying to, promote local. I was going on like community pages, posting stuff about my business, trying to, I tried Google Ads for a little bit. At the time it did not work for me, but there's a science behind Google, which I'm finding out now. But, me and my kids would go out putting door hangers, in our local neighborhoods. It got me a job or two here and there. I put out some yard signs, but
it was still slow.
It was definitely growth. Very slow growth.
And at this time you are without a job, like, so you quit already? Or not at the time you were still?
No, I had left the job. I mean, I had some money saved for like a rainy day. So I had time to.
How much did you have time? Like from the day you quit your job until this has to work?
I felt like I had about a year.
Okay. Yes. So you had enough saving to keep your family alive for a year.
For at least a year. So I was like, okay, well.
Good.
So at that point I was like, okay, it's all or nothing. I got to figure this out. There's no going back.
Got it. So now you are not just exploring junk removal. Now you are in it because why? You invested.
Yes.
You spend the 6,000 and you're like in it.
And people are telling me, I've seen the success stories and I've seen the failure stories.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people tell me, you're in Southern California. Over 90% of the junk operators are under the table. They don't have insurance. They don't have companies declared with the state. They don't pay taxes. They don't do any of that. And those guys will underbid you big time. For a job that you do for 600, they'll do it for 200. You have to find ways to make yourself stand out more. And of course, with business, everything's trial and error, right? I mean, nothing comes, especially if you've never been in this industry, how are you going to know?
Yeah. So
I was doing a lot of experimenting. And this curriculum course that I was in, this mentorship course, it definitely helped. And so I'm delving through everything, trying to figure out how can I promote my company. So, I joined one local chamber of commerce, not the one I'm in now, but it was a different one. But I joined that in hopes of trying to at least, get my name out there a little bit. Try to meet with public officials if I could, like in the town that I live in. What else was I doing? Just stuff like that. And then, ironically, the curriculum for this program I was in, it mentioned BNI, for example. And BNI could be a very good resource to get your name in the community. I was like, well, this is awesome. Let me look into BNI as well. So I looked into a couple of BNIs, and the one that I ended up joining, it was, they had told me at first they had a junk guy, but then I guess there was some miscommunication and they were not. But anyway, so I went to a meeting. I loved it. And I was like, okay, let me put an application in. Let's see if I get accepted. And so I very graciously, they accepted me, which was awesome because my BNI now, there's a lot of great members. I mean, all the BNIs that I've even visited too, there's always, it's a good chunk of people, and very vast fields of business that they're in. and it's nice having that Rolodex of
Yeah.
people because and it like any group of individuals that say you join, like whatever it may be, you have to gain their trust. They
100%.
they won't just refer you right away. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't know your services, they don't know what you do. So it took some time, but people started slowly referring me, and some people even hired me to do some jobs at their own house or on job sites, which I very much appreciated because it was getting my name out there slowly. Also, I started trying to get in with the realtors. Realtors are a great resource when it comes to my line of work. Now, of course, if you're doing work for realtors, I mean, that is a very hard group to convince in a good way because, I mean, they're putting their name on the line by referring you.
Yes.
So if they refer you and you don't do a good job, their reputation gets ruined, or it can go down and they will never refer you again.
Yes.
And it can give both of you a bad name.
Correct.
So you want to put your best foot forward and do a great job so that people remember you. So I also joined a few realtor groups here and there and because there was a lady that was in my BNI at the time, she got me in touch with a lot of realtor groups and other just independent realtors. So I've been slowly getting my name out there that way, and the job referrals have been slowly increasing, which is great. I love it. I mean, a lot of people tell me, "Oh, I've seen that logo before," or I'll go to a landfill and they'll be like, "Wait, I've seen your face." I'm like, "You have?" "Oh, we see your ads all the time. It's like you have your family. You guys are in your outfits and everything." And it's like, "Yeah, that's me." Yeah. They're like, in fact, I think one of the most flattering things was I didn't get to go to it. It was last year. There's an event called the Junk Expo. It's up in Santa Rosa, up in Northern California every year. Some of the biggest junk removal companies like Sonoma Strong Hauling, they host it. And I have a buddy of mine from New Jersey that went to it, and another buddy of mine from the Bay Area that was there too. Well, my buddy from New Jersey was telling me that because he had come down last summer to visit Southern California, and we met up and because he does junk removal as well. And he went to the Junk Expo and he was mentioning how he had stayed in Fontana. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm from Fontana." So they start chatting and somehow my name pops up. And he's like, oh, and the guy he's chatting with, he goes, "Oh, I know that guy." He goes, my friend's like, "You do?" Because yeah, I've seen him at the landfill. I see him driving around. He goes, "This is his logo, right?" He goes, "Yes, that's the guy." He goes, so he called me and goes, "Justin, you've got some fans." I was like, "I hope so. That would be great."
All right. So let's talk about the logo and the name. So what's the inspiration behind that?
So the name SNN it comes from my children, Susie and Nathan. I named it after them. I wanted them, I mean, my kids are my inspiration. I want to do good for them. I mean, growing up, my parents did everything they could as immigrant parents to try to do better for us, financially and all. And at any given time, my parents were working 2 jobs just to make the ends meet, and they did a really good job doing it. And so that was always something that I never forgot. And, my parents were, along with their regular jobs, they were also entrepreneurs. They had a side business that worked really well. And I wanted, I was like, I want to do good for my kids better, and so for me, my kids are my inspiration, of course, so I want to show them like, hey, at least, your dad's trying, and so
he puts your initials on his company name.
Right.
So he's trying, it's your company too.
Right. And so in regards to the design, I was racking my brain. I'm like, what am I going to do for designs? I don't even know how to come up with a logo. I'm sure people do logos all day, but I want something that personally resonates. So a friend of mine, he's unfortunately passed on now, but when he was alive, he put a post online about it. He was doing logos because he was very good at digital design and everything. So I called him. I was like, "Hey, brother, you're doing logos?" I was like, "How much do you charge for a logo?" And he goes, "Well, I've known you." He goes, "I won't even charge you for it." He goes, "Just tell me what you want, and we'll just see what we can come up with for you." So I told him what I wanted. I wanted something that represented the South Pacific, where me and my family are from. I was
Fiji.
like, yes, and so I was just like, come up with some design, something that says Polynesia in a good way, like I don't know. And so he's like, "All right, let me tinker with something." So a few days later, he hits me up. He goes, "Hey, I got some designs. Let me know what you think." I was like, "All right, this one's not bad. This one's okay." And then this one, I was like, "Ooh, I like it." And even my wife and a few other people are like, "Ooh, this one's good. Like it says everything that you stand for, at least in your life that we know about you."
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's run with this.
100%. And now that you are a client of ours, of Prasad, we are doing some modification to the logo, but we're not losing the essence of it. Because I resonated. I felt your attachment to your background and to your origins. And so we want to honor that. We want to keep the thing. I think there are certain things that could be improved in the logo, which is, for example, it's so hard to see the name. So I can see the visual from distance, because logos, the good thing about logos is that no matter how small you get them, people will still need to recognize,
of course,
who is that. So for example, think of the M from McDonald's. Like no matter how small it gets, you're still going to see that M.
Yes.
And so the same goes with logos like this. I think SN needs to be more visible. It takes a higher portion of the image. And so the other modification was in terms of the and, right? So the and is complicated, especially when it comes to the website, when it comes to other things. So we recommended that, a lot of people used, instead of the and, they will put N. And so it will become SNN, which means that the middle N is for the and, so kind of representing the and this way we have a 3-letter name, which is SNN, which is more catchy, more memorable, and hopefully could be very could stand it could be also very visible on the logo itself.
Right.
And then there's the other component, which is the holing and trash removal. We looked up in the SEO guidebook. Basically, we're looking at the tools, and we saw that the number one term that people are using online is junk removal. It's not hauling and it's not trash removal. And so we also recommended to you to go with SNN Junk Removal, because with that domain, snnjunkremoval.com, and with all the company name containing the junk removal as a term, that way we could get you ranked higher on Google. And so, what do you think of that strategy and approach that we worked with you on?
I agree with 100%. I mean, when you first mentioned it to me, I wasn't sure what to think about it at first, because, my logo was catching on and everything, but I could always catch on more.
Yes.
And so I started asking folks in the industry that I know that, they, with the logos that they came up with, what was the inspiration for that, or how should I reword it? And they kind of said what you said. They're like, no, if you need to maybe rebrand slightly. They're like, your logo is awesome. You just got to rebrand the wording, and then to make it a little more stand out more, especially the junk removal part. If you do that, I think that'll really it'll improve your brand recognition big time. Because a few friends of mine, they had to go through some phases too where they did that, and their names got out a lot more. I mean, I have a friend of mine in the Bay Area who, was it like 2 years ago, because we met in the same program that we were in, the junk school, right? Before he joined that program, he was probably making about maybe 80 grand a year. When he joined this program, his first full year being in the program, he made about 300 grand. The next year, I think last year, I think he made over $500,000. This year, he's shooting for over $1 million, which I think he can easily do, And so, the first thing he said, number one thing in this industry is brand recognition. He goes, your logo is one thing, but he goes, the work behind it is huge. He goes, and if you can make that happen, he goes, and I think you're getting there. He goes, it's going to take more time, obviously.
Yes.
But he goes, I think you're stepping in the right direction. He goes, and with the new team you have now, he goes, and everything you've been telling me, he goes, I like the direction you're going in.
Yes.
And to hear somebody who's making multi-6-figure amounts telling me that, I like the sound of it.
New team, everybody, it's us. Let's go.
That's right. Very good. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. So, it's crazy that my plan for this episode was to talk more about the residential side, the people outside, but we immediately went into the business, and it's fine. We can backtrack again. But speaking of continuing with the theme of what Paris Lab is doing, you came to us already doing a lot of social media ads. Now, you remember you had 2 ads.
Right.
And then you've been running them for how long?
Oh, man, I was running them for about 6 months at least.
Yeah, so 6 months, the same 2 ads over and over. And
right.
In all honesty, they were not the best. And so as soon as we start working together, we had you come to the studio, and we filmed a brand new 12 ads in one session.
Right.
We filmed the entire thing. And now we have variety. And we chose to tackle each ad to hit a certain point, which we'll be talking about in this episode, which is like different concerns that people have when it comes to junk removal. And we're going to try to address that in this episode. And so with that, we saw, what do you think of the ads so far that we've been running for you?
The ads are great. I've, the last month when you all were running the first 4 ads, some folks, mentioned like, hey, I like your ads. They look nice. The new ads that you guys started running this month in February, I've been getting so much positive feedback. A friend of mine who hopefully might be becoming one of your clients said, reached out to me saying, hey, this ad looks really professionally done. Who's your guy? And I was like, oh man, yes, it is very professionally done. In fact, my sister texted me, I think late last night or this morning, telling me, that reel that I saw of you online, like just chatting, she goes, I like it. It looks great. I was like, all right. So, the quality speaks in itself.
Yeah.
Everybody who has seen my ads, I have a friend of mine in Ohio that hit me up the other day. His exact words were, "This is fire."
Nice.
Love it. I was like, wow.
That's
and
awesome.
and that guy, he's a very strong businessman, very good guy. I don't know him to give a lot of compliments, so to hear that out of him, I was like, all right. If it's resonating with him,
Yeah.
and he's a very successful junk removal guy, and he does demolition too. And hearing that compliment from him, I was like, all right, something's kicking here in a good way.
And the numbers show it. So as soon as we start launching even the previous set of ads, we cut the cost per lead by half. So half of the cost of lead, and that's
right.
And also the idea with the first couple of months is really to do a lot of A/B testing. So we're going to be running different ads to see if we find a set that is a winning set, and then we can focus all of our budgets moving forward on that.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about who is your customer? Who is your ideal client?
A majority of my clients are residential customers. It can be as small as picking up a refrigerator to cleaning up an entire property, whether externally or internally, like inside of a house. It could be a few items, or it could be a complete house hoard. I've come across a lot of those situations. So there's a lot of variety. You can say that. Residential customers can be very fun to deal with. And I say that positively because, and in all honesty, I love residential customers because, you get to actually be in front of the people who you are going to be servicing. And I try to go out of my way to actually talk to people and find out their story as well, because if they're going to be spending their hard-earned money with me, I don't want to treat them like an invoice. A lot of companies do that, whether it's in my line of work or others. I've seen that over and over. They just treat people like an invoice and they just run off once they get paid. I don't want people to feel that way. That old saying that says, treat others how you want to be treated. I try to live my life by that, because if people treat me, whatever, okay, I'll remember it, not in a good way. But if somebody goes out of their way to find out something about me, even though they didn't even have to, for me, that resonates in a very positive way. And I try to do that with my clients so that people do remember me in a positive way. So, if the need comes again, I'm hopefully the first person they call. And it has happened where folks have said, hey, no, we remember you. You took the time to find out what we needed. You talked with us. You treated us like actual people. I was like, oh, yeah. But of course, I have to remember that most people don't get that experience. So I'm trying my best to do that. And so in the residential market, it's fun because it's also a nice way to get my business name and brand out there. Because people talk.
Yeah, so you serve residential and commercial.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We're licensed to do any of those things. And when I say licensed, because sure, anyone can do stuff, but there are companies that will require you to show your liability insurance. How much of an aggregate policy do you have to cover damages in case anything happens? Do you have commercial auto insurance? Are you a registered LLC with the state? Yes, and yes. And here's our proof. And also, do you provide receipts? Absolutely. Because in my line of work, as I mentioned, most people are under the table. They'll only work for cash. and they will not provide any documentation.
Yeah.
I don't. And that's the first thing I asked, would you like a receipt? And people are like, really? I'm like, half the people are like, no, it's okay. Other people are like, yes, actually, I would like one. They're
Yes.
like, do you, is that is that going to hurt your business? I'm like, no, I report my earnings.
Interesting how people expect everybody to be under the table these days.
Yes.
And it's very important for both, I think, residential and commercial, that the company that you're dealing with has liability insurance, has commercial auto, because if anything that happens on their property and you don't have all the insurances in place, they could be liable.
Yes.
And so when you are licensed and insured, that means that, if something happened on their property, your insurance is going to kick in. They're not going to be affected. You are a proper entity, because the person who hire you, they have responsibility to check that you're licensed and insured.
Right. And it does go a long way. And as I've been, since my company name is getting out there more, especially in the past year, that is something that some folks have brought up. Like, we like the fact that you're insured, that you're doing it the right way. Like, yeah, you cost more than the guy around the corner, but we know that if anything happens, that we're not just going to be left behind. Like, you're going to take care of it.
Yeah, but you don't cost a lot more. I mean, I don't want to scare people out there. By the way, we met. The first time we met, you had a big job of removing our spa.
Oh yeah.
So I was a customer. That's how we got started.
Right.
And so, I looked around before I hired you, and okay, maybe there was like $50 more, but that's basically how it was. It wasn't like a massive difference than those who are not licensed and insured. But it's not a big deal, I think. But compared to the quality of work that you're doing, and so talk to me about like the pricing, and how does running a proper business affect your pricing, and how much people expect for a junk removal service.
So, I mean, pricing is obviously based on where you're located and what type of items you're trying to have hauled away. It could be, typically when it comes to, we'll have a $99 stop charge for like a bulky item. So say a refrigerator or washer, dryer, something like that, right? And then after that, we charge based on load volume. So how much it fills up a trailer, for example. Like our trailer is a 12 cubic yard trailer. I always like to tell people, the little small dumpsters you see on the side of buildings, put 4 of those together. That's the trailer I have, for example. So if you need a visual, they're like, oh, okay, that tends to resonate in people's minds. Oh, okay, so it holds a decent amount of stuff. And then we obviously make an assessment of like, okay, what are you trying to have hauled away? Is there anything hazardous in here? There's sometimes we have to, we offer free estimates. We'll drive out, say from our house to Riverside or Moreno Valley, or we'll come out, to Banning, we'll go to certain places to give in-person estimates and at no charge, part of the service. And, we want to see, because there could just be a pile of stuff. You don't know what's under that pile. So you have to kind of sift through things and make sure that, okay, am I quoting this correctly? And then also, we have to let people know, okay, we can't take any paints, any solvents, any kind of chemicals we cannot take. Tires, we can take a few, but we cannot take them if they have the rims on them, because the landfills all have issues with that, because they say it's not conducive with with their procedures. So okay, no problem. So and then of course, if it's a hazardous situation, like say if there's living creatures in the house, it could be bed bugs, fleas, or if there's mold and mildew in the house, then there are sometimes extra charges for that, because then we have to get hazardous material suits, masks, and not just any mask. It has to be the gas mask. I've done jobs where there were high levels of mold and mildew, and I had to wear the gas masks that have the HEPA filters in them, so that I'm not breathing any of that in. And it does filter out all the stuff, so I can breathe somewhat normally. Let's be honest, if it's a 100-degree day and you're wearing one, it's not easy, especially if you're wearing a hazmat. You'll lose a few pounds just standing in there. But you have to take extra steps sometimes because you don't want to bring that home.
Yes.
You know, because I've been at jobs where, I mean, the say a two-bedroom apartment completely thrashed, and there's bed bugs living in there, or something that's alive hopping around or whatever. So the nice thing about being in groups like BNI, you have a guy that happens to be
Pest control.
a pest control guy. So we call him, hey, can you do a heat treatment? Sure, no problem. Let your client know it costs this much. All right, sure. They'll come do a heat treatment so it kills. They have to do it at least 125 degrees Fahrenheit or more, and then it'll kill all the bugs. So that's one less thing that I have to worry about and possibly charge the customer more for. So there's a lot of matters that need to be sometimes addressed. If it's a big project, small projects, not so bad. We can give estimates right away for what they may be. Again, a majority of the time, it's just based on load volume, how much it fills up our trailer. There are different pricing for heavier materials such as dirt, rocks, concrete, roofing tiles, roofing shingles like the asphalt ones, because they're a lot heavier, and the landfills or recycle centers that you take them to, they'll charge you, and they charge by weight.
Right. A lot of people are concerned about the environment. So they are, because especially sometimes when, me and my wife, when we are walking around, so if we walk deep into some areas you will see people are really like throwing trash in regular places, like normal residential area. You know what I mean? Like just in the bushes. And it's sad. So a lot of people are concerned, like, where is this trash going? And is there a way to recycle, to be concerned to the environment?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, there's a lot of people in my industry. And as I mentioned, a lot of folks that are, for example, that don't have the proper licensing and all, and the ones that do jobs for a lot less, for, whatever their reasons are, I'm sad to say a lot of those folks do dump their refuse not at proper places of refuse, like a landfill, or trying to recycle them at places, So, for example, like if, yes, there are places out in the open I've noticed where, and you can tell by the way they're dumped. Like if you see something dumped like in a box type shape, it came in a trailer where they just dumped it and then came out, and the way it just stayed there, you knew that somebody did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not good to see that. It wrecks the community you live in. It looks horrible. I mean, there are some people, I've seen videos. Somebody posted a video recently of some junk hauler in Fontana. They went in a local neighborhood, and they had a dump trailer just like mine. They tipped it up in the middle of the street and then just drove and just dumped everything right in the middle of a residential street and took off. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, at least there are other guys that are trying to hide what they're doing, even though it's still wrong. But I'm like, this is just blatantly, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
There was, and people, when you get caught, people will let others know, like, hey, because it will catch up to you. I mean, about a year ago, in the Ukaipa Bulletin page on Facebook, somebody had posted the name of a business that did that. They actually live in the town that I do. I'd see the person's truck all the time. I won't give the person's name, but they went to somebody's house to remove a jacuzzi, and the homeowner gave them a nice review online, everything. Hey, they did a good job. They took my jacuzzi out, everything. A couple of days later, Ukaipa PD shows up at the homeowner's home. And they're like, what's going on here? They're like, hey, did you have a jacuzzi removed a couple of days ago? He goes, yeah, why? That jacuzzi ended up behind a business in Redlands.
Oh, my God.
And they're like, so, and I don't know what happened with it, but usually, because right now, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that law enforcement is actually using drones. Just like insurance companies use drones to deny people's, insurance policies, law enforcement is actually utilizing the use of drones to catch illegal dumping, which I think is great. I love that they're doing that because it's starting to crack down more on a lot of illegal dumping in our communities. Because, why would you want to trash the communities that you're living in?
Yeah.
You want to uplift your community, not bring its appeal and worth down, right?
Yeah.
So they're again, I applaud law enforcement for doing that. I think it's great because you shouldn't be dumping stuff in your community, you should take them to, proper places of refuge. I mean, a landfill is one, a transfer station is another. And if you have, say, metals, right? I mean, you can take them to a scrap yard and you may not get much for it, but at least it's going to be recycled in some way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you have something possibly that can be donated, I mean, it's a little extra work, but why not? I mean, Goodwill sometimes takes things. The Salvation Army is very gracious. They have a donation center, a huge distribution center in San Bernardino. I try to go there when I have a chance to drop off certain items, and most of the times they're okay with it as long as it's not damaged. They're, and then go ahead.
Yeah, some people could think about taking these stuff and redecorating it, polishing it. Like, let's say an old cabinet, someone wanna let it go. Then you take it and then you're like, oh, I could polish it, fix it and then sell it. But then that would defeat the purpose of junk removal in your mind, right? Because you have to spend a lot of time doing that, right?
Right. I mean, the old adage also comes into play. I mean, how much is your time worth, right? I mean, once in a while you come across something on a job where, oh, I could maybe use this for myself personally. I mean, I've gotten some of my tools that I use on jobs. People were, and I asked them, are you sure you want to throw this away? Yeah, sure. Okay, no problem. I mean, so I might use it or I might give it to somebody who might need it. I remember one time, I think there was a job where I think we ended up using most of the stuff on the job. It was like almost all brand new stuff. The homeowner just said, hey, get rid of it. I don't want it. I was like, I mean, he was a very well-to-do gentleman. And I was like, are you sure you want all this tossed away? I was like, okay. He goes, do whatever you want with it. Well, I mean, there was like brand new bicycles in there. In fact, I think we kept the bicycles. They were very nice, like beach cruisers. So, I mean, for ourselves, we kept it. Or if we don't need it, if we know someone that wants it, well, hey, you want this? We have something. Come grab it. Or if they don't, and if we have a chance to donate it or hand it to somebody, why not? I mean, if it's
you could put it on Facebook Marketplace and sell it.
It depends on the item.
Again, it's time. You said
right.
about time. It's really all goes back to time.
Exactly. So,
but it's a good business, right? Like, what do you think if someone is listening to you right now? Would you recommend starting a junk removal business?
I don't know. And this is, I'm not trying to encourage or discourage anything, because this is when people ask me this question too, I'm like, the first thing they're like, why did you get into junk removal? And would you recommend others? Because I've even had people from my childhood, some of them were like, oh, we're thinking about starting a junk removal. Okay. How are you going to go about it? I was like, because you see junk removers all the time, but most of them are not doing what myself and other junk removal companies are doing, like the legal companies. In our area, the best junk removal companies, they're making 7-figure amounts and they're doing well. And I'm proud of them. I know some of them personally, really good people, and they worked hard to get where they are. And one thing a lot of people don't realize, there's a lot of money you have to invest the first couple of years. Everyone thinks it's just, oh yeah, I'll just do junk removal, I'll make good money. And it's like, it's not as easy. If you work for way less money, and if that's what you want to do, fine. But if you're trying to grow a business, and you're trying to scale a business, there's a lot of challenges you have to face.
Can we be open to the audience and tell them numbers? I know it's not every business is comfortable sharing their numbers. I'm perfectly comfortable, because this will give people more satisfaction from the knowledge. Because if we think, for example, one question is that how much would your first year would you make if you have one trailer, one person junk removal business, and you're doing all what you're doing? How much would you make in 1 year, for example?
It depends on where you are. Here
we are here in California.
Okay, so again,
depends where we are in California, right?
So here in the Inland Empire, okay, so if we're going to talk numbers.
Yes.
If you're doing everything that I've mentioned and more, can you make a 6-figure amount? Sure. Why not?
A year or a month?
In a year.
Okay.
And starting off, that's not bad if you can.
100%. It was my target for Paris Lab. First year my target was 6-figure, 100,000.
Yes. And because as I mentioned before, most people in this line of work, because they're doing under the table, if they make 3,000 or so, they're really happy with that. But I don't want to just make that. I want to scale a business.
Sure.
So if you're investing all this time and money and effort, and if you're on top of things and you're doing it, and say if you are a one-man operation and you have a truck and trailer, can you clear 6 figures? Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, and that's being here in this area in the Inland Empire. I mean, if you're in bigger markets like Los Angeles or San Francisco or the greater San Francisco Bay Area, though, with the same setup, because of the cost of living
And the density of
density of population, you can make way more. I mean,
Right.
I know people in their first year that net.
Yeah, so for me, like the way I understood it, income or revenue is what you bill people.
Right.
Now, when you pay the G&A expenses,
Right.
the general expenses, and then also if you needed something on the job, like as a cost of goods, basically, that's another. So we're not talking about the profits to take home. We're talking about revenue, just billing.
Just overall revenue, yes, you can absolutely, like I said, in this area, you can make an easy 6 figures in your first year if you do everything that I've mentioned. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, does it work?
And what's the goal? Like the second year is like should double that is a goal? Like how long have you been in business?
So last year was my first full year in business.
Okay.
And so this is my second year. I mean, my goal is I want to double what I made last year.
And you made 6 figures last year.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to double what I made last year.
Isn't that interesting that me and you are exactly the same?
Yeah.
I just completed a full year in business now, like for a year and a few months, and my goal was 6 figures. I ended up with 145,000, which is good. I'm very pleased, especially that we don't have any credit. Like we did not take any loan or anything to buy all of this stuff. So yeah, the 140 is not take home because I had to
Of course.
pay all of this stuff.
Believe me, I feel the same way. I mean, I didn't take out loans or anything. I mean, I have a business account with one of the banks that I'm with, but I pay my bills and I try to keep the balances as much as I can low. And the first year, obviously, I had to fork out a lot of money to get a lot of things started. I didn't want to be in debt. I didn't want to take out loans.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you put things on credit cards, right?
Bring your microphone close to your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Sorry. So you're talking about debts.
yeah. So I mean, taking out a loan it's not a bad thing, but if you can do as much as you can without taking out loans, that's one less burden hanging over your head.
100%.
Because
Less
and I think that's just what we were both raised around. Like,
Yes.
because taking out a loan from a bank, it's like, it's just another thing just being put over you.
Yes.
And I remember growing up, my parents, they did not want to take out loans. They just worked extra on whatever they could to bring in that revenue to cover whatever had to be done. And they did it, and so I used that as much as I can to try to build this business. And sure, there's expenses all the time. This year started off decently so far. I mean, right now, slow season, because usually January and February is the slowest times of the year in this industry because people are recovering from the holidays and they're getting their credit card bills and whatnot. And then usually things start picking up around March because people start doing spring cleaning. They're getting their tax returns and they're like, oh, we have some money to spend. Let's clean up our garage or our house or something, right? So in the, as I mentioned,
So the goal would be for next year is to double 200, and then would you say that you're going to be doubling every year? Is this a reasonable thing to aspire to?
I think so.
It is reasonable to double.
I think it is. Again, I mean, anything is possible.
Right.
If there's one thing I have to say about living here in the United States, financially, things can be very possible. This country has amazing laws when it comes to, earning taxes and all. And being a business owner helps you a lot in many ways that most people never think about. And yes, you can scale your business big time. But it all depends on how much you put into it. Mm-hmm. Unless someone is doing all your work for you, which is never going to happen, you have to put in the work.
Yes.
And you have to do your research. You have to put yourself out there in the community. Are there times you're going to fail? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. There are some times you're going to be afraid you're not going to be able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. I'm sure you felt that way many a times.
Yeah.
But just if there's one piece of advice I can give to anyone in this industry, if you really want to do it and do it the right way, like number one thing is don't give up. I mean, so there are some days I get very discouraged too.
Really?
Oh, it happens all the time, because I'll look at the numbers and I'm like, oh, it's going to be tough this month. But then sometimes the next month makes up for it, but I know that I'm putting out my best effort and some people, it lands in their lap, but for most parts it doesn't.
What is, besides marketing, because I'm contributing to your biggest expenses, but sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, because marketing is going to be your biggest expense as a small business anyway. But besides marketing, what other major expenses that you have?
To be honest, those are my biggest expenses is marketing.
Yeah.
But
then you've got the fuel.
Do
you pay for your truck or you paid it cash or like?
I just bought a new truck recently.
Okay.
I put a majority down in cash for it, and the rest of it I just took a loan from a credit union that I'm with, and the payment's very reasonable. I cannot complain.
Okay.
And if business keeps picking up, I can have that paid off real quick. Mm-hmm. All my other vehicles I own outright, so that's one thing I don't have is that insane overhead to think about. Mm-hmm. Sure, you have registrations and all, but that's a one-time expense on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. Fuel is something. Yes, you always have to worry about fuel. Yeah. And pricing for jobs obviously is based on where, and the reason why I say, like jobs are based, pricing is based on where you're located, because if we drive, say, past 30 miles, we do have to charge a little extra due to fuel costs. Yeah. Fuel costs here in Southern California are very high.
Especially this is a truck that is hauling heavy weight.
Right. But one thing I did some research on, and I don't know if all truck owners do this, but one of the best things to do when it comes to if you have a truck, finding a fuel efficient truck is not always easy, but there are things you can do to make that vehicle more fuel efficient. I noticed, my truck, I had bought it back in 2000, the truck that I use the most, I think in 2019 is when I purchased it. And so I've had it for almost 7 years now. And, I've done some maintenance work on it. It had the original parts and everything. It was a Toyota, but I had to make a few changes here and there. And then I noticed when I changed the fuel pump in there, I got another 40 to 50 miles per tank. That goes a long way. So I was like, and even I told my mechanic, he's my lifelong mechanic, they do great work for a great price or for whatever, they do. So I always take my stuff to them. They're based in Highland where I'm at, and they've been there for probably 30 years at least.
You can shout them out.
Oh, yeah, Manual's Auto and Tires. They're on Baseline Avenue.
Awesome.
And so Manuel, the dad who owns it, and then his son Gabriel, who's a really good friend of mine, they've taken care of all my automobiles over the years. So I take that, and they're always giving me good tips on, hey, do this for maintenance, do that for maintenance. And when it comes to trucks, you have to, maintenance is key. Mm-hmm. You have to, and also it depends on what type of gasoline you use too.
Yeah.
Because gasoline from a majority of places, they burn way too fast. They're high in octane, so you have to know the right type of gasoline to use too. Sometimes it'll cost you more, but in the long run, it does pay off.
Oh, so I always buy the cheaper one.
Oh, no. So here's the thing. I do buy the grade 87 gas a majority of the time, or most of the time, but it depends where you get it from. So say if you have like Arco gas compared to say 76, there's a big difference. Nobody thinks about it. Right?
Oh my God.
So Arco gas or like Costco gas, right? Those are fuels that burn a lot faster.
Really?
Now, mind you, I know somebody who works in the fuel industry, and they told me two things. They're like, one, fuel, they all come from the same source, but what makes everyone different and their pricing different is what they add to it that will, differentiate them. So, people will say, oh, Arco gas, it's cheap gas. It'll get the job done, but nothing fancy. But you go to 76, for example. 76 gas is, they call it like a detergent gas because it kind of scrubs your engine at the same time, and it improves your fuel efficiency. Yeah, you pay a little more for it, sometimes a lot more. But and just the regular grade 87, but it does get you more miles per gallon.
Wow.
So it pays in itself. Yeah. And the thing is, when you're doing a full tank, you're only paying maybe a few dollars, like $4 or $5 more for a full tank, and you're getting a better quality of gasoline.
Yeah.
Go figure. But that's
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
If I tell you, Justin, tomorrow you're gonna have to start over from scratch, and what would you do differently?
I don't know what I would do differently, to be honest. I mean, as I mentioned, coming into this industry, I had no idea what I was doing. Now, I mean, if I were to do things differently, the first thing I'd do is look for Parrot Slab Media, because if I would have hired you guys from the start, oh man,
Exactly.
But and this isn't just a shout out to Parrot Slab Media. In all honesty, you guys do great work.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have only been doing my stuff for a little over a month now. I think month and a half now, and I'm seeing the differences. And people who are reaching out to me are telling me, whoever's running your ads are like, "Are you doing them?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not running my ads." I was like, "I've done that before," and I mean. I did okay, but when you have a whole team that's actually like with actual people putting their hands on it and putting their heart and soul into it, you see that. You see the difference. I mean, before I signed up with Parrot Slab Media, I mean, I had asked one of your clients personally, like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on Parrot Slab Media? I mean, I know you know this person personally, and I'm only asking because I'm thinking about employing their services." And the first thing this person said, "Brother, let me tell you, that group, especially Naja, he really makes your company like his baby. Like you will go the extra mile, and his whole team does the same thing. Like they will research every option possible to make your business better." And I have seen a huge increase in revenue with my business. If you want to, you're going to pay a little more, but if you want to do it good, trust me, go with Naja and Parrot Slab. You will not be disappointed, brother. And you know what? He was right.
Yeah, I appreciate both you and him. Thank you very much. And I think I was lucky in different ways. One, in the training I got before I even moved to the US. So I had 16 years of pure marketing experience from the highest brands out there.
Oh, nice.
So all my background is in very reputable, high quality agencies that working with big brands. And with big brands, there is no the quality comes always first. And so that's why what my passion is for quality, for strategic thinking. So when we design ads, one to tackle this pain point and one to tackle that pain point, a lot of the people like they hire college students to run their ads and stuff. I mean, these guys they don't have the depth of knowledge and expertise to really think of what make people tick, what people are concerned about. They don't go that extra mile, because my profession is a human behavior. Like we need to impact someone who's listening to this. We need to make them move. We need to make them feel an emotional response. And so that comes to it. But and then the hard work, the amount of work that we've done, and not to go cheap as well.
Right.
Like the equipment here is like more than 100,000. You can do the same what we're doing with maybe 10,000. You can have phones all over here. You can have shitty audio, right? So all of that works in a certain way that makes us who we are. So I appreciate both you and Chris Markarian who referred you to me. And the last question for you is that what's your moonshot? So we have this moon. We think that people who start businesses, they are dreamers. They want to achieve big things in life. They want to take control of their destiny.
Right.
What is your moonshot? Where do you want to go? What's the end goal there?
When I started doing this, I just, I wanted to, it was all or nothing. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I just want to at least see if I can create a successful business. And if I can I scale it upwards? And I see a lot of these companies that have scaled their companies up and they're doing well. And they keep on expanding and expanding. Well, I want to do the same thing. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know, but there's one thing about me, I don't give up. At least I try not to as much as possible. Even if I get discouraged, I try to find a way, because as a husband, as a father, as a man, we're used to providing for our loved ones, our families, and if you're not doing that, then you're not going to survive. I mean, sure, it's about survival, but I also want to create a legacy, not just my own, but for my kids. I want them to have a name that they can look up to, like, hey, Daddy did something right.
Yeah.
I want them. I want to be able to pass something to them if they want to get into it. And there's a gentleman who is from another junk company. They're a very successful junk removal company in this area. The first time I met him, it was at a scrapyard, and he saw me and goes, "Hey, I know you." I was like, "You know me?" He goes, I see you posting stuff everywhere." He goes, "Look, I don't believe in rivalries." He goes, "There's enough garbage and crap around here for all of us to pick up and make a really good living." He goes, "I like what you're doing." He goes, "I see you're starting." He goes, "And I also see that you're hustling. You're trying." He goes, "And you're doing it the right way." He goes, "You're not just some Johnny flyby. You're not just doing it under the table. You're doing it the right way." He goes, "We started the same way. It was tough." He goes, "But we like to think we're doing okay." I was like, "Oh, you guys are doing well." And he goes, "You're going to be just fine, son." He goes, "Just keep up the hard work, and you're going to go places." And this is coming from, if you want to call him a competitor, but I've noticed that, well, all the big guys, I'm actually good friends with them now. And they've all told me, and I even told them, I was like, I aspire to be like you guys. I want to have a company that makes seven figures and employs good people, and that has a good brand name in the community. And they're like, you're going to get there. Just keep working hard. It's going to be discouraging at times, but just keep doing that. That's my moonshot.
I love it. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you.